Crypto, why are you so sad? Crash PRs are today.
Krash PRs are today? Woo! Woo! Krash PRs!
What the hell is that?
It's Krash PRs. Yeah. Yo, Crypto, Krash PRs go live today. It's time to train.
Reggie-a-lecky, Reggie-a-lecky, Reggie-a-lecky.
Pack Bash. Bash sucks. Bash sucks.
Wow, he's the Berry Berry.
You suck, Bash. Oh.
Yo! We're back for season 9 power rankings with your boy Sketch AV, joined by Crypto. Say hello.
What is going on, everybody? I do have to piss, so just be wary.
Uh-oh. The hydro pump. And of course we got Bash as well.
Oh yes, Basher Nation here. Let's go.
Uploaded a video in over a year, but he's Basher Nation apparently.
We still got the community, bro.
It's time for our annual unhinged post-draft power rankings.
Finally.
It's a Krash tradition at this point.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, this is the Arceus rankings, though, correct?
Yes, correct. We are doing. Yeah, let's give a proper introduction before we get like a little too crazy. So this is season 9 Arceus post-draft power rankings. We did have a grace period. This is going to be factoring in changes that people made during the grace period, and yeah, it's not going to really be factoring in like coach skill, because otherwise, you know, Bash would of course be in last place.
Whoa.
Bash did on me last season. That same exact thing.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we said the same thing. Yeah. No, it's just gonna be based on like the roster, because obviously we haven't really played any games yet, so can't really say like who's doing really good or really bad. Just how the team overall gels together, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And the rankings are based on an average of the 3 of us, and yeah, I think the teams are pretty good this season for the most part. It was a pretty hard to rank these teams, but speaking
So I was just gonna say one thing, sorry to interrupt.
no, go for it.
We all 3 did not rank ourselves, so it'll be out of the 50. So essentially, I ranked Sketch and Bash, but I didn't rank myself, and then same for them. So like we just didn't rank ourselves, just to throw that out there.
Yeah, but it's still like average score, so
Yeah.
we all land where we land. Well, I guess we can go ahead and dive into this. This is going to be a long video, am I right? But we can start with last place, number 16. Oh wait, who wants to introduce them?
I can take Seansters. Let me just pull up.
Well, spoilers.
What the fuck? Just kidding. It was Bash.
Wow. So
This guy's never done a PR video before. What the fuck?
Oh man, we got a rookie here.
Yep.
Oh, of course. It's not like we haven't done this for multiple years. So, but yeah, we got Chauncers in the Galactic Greninjas at last place, unfortunately.
You have to be there.
Yeah, somebody had to be at the bottom. I guess it's Chauncer. So, but yeah, his team consists of Lando I, Mega Mawile, Dondozo, Amoonguss, Screamtail, Kyurem, Rotom Heat, Dugtrio, Regigigas, Sableye, and Aggron. With his Terra for the 9 points or above, which we should probably clarify before we get into this, that the way we did Terras this season is 9 points or above, you had to select a type, while if it's at 8 points or below, it's a free, and you got one from each. So Sponsors is Landorus Eye with the Water Terra, and Aggron is the free Terra, which could do any Terra type.
Correct. Did you want to break his team down, or we kind of just take turns here? What are we doing?
Yeah, I'll go first because I guess because I went.
Yeah.
So I liked a lot of the team, but there was like some issues with it. Actually, so the breaker core of Lando, I, and Mega Mawile has been here since I don't even know, like Gen 7, Gen 6, probably Gen 6, right? Probably. And
Yeah.
those two work really well together, just like breaking wise, because they cover each other pretty well.
They have that core in Giratina too.
Yeah. Spoilers, but no.
I'm just saying. I'm sorry, I'll just go on mute. Excuse me.
Gosh,
How dare,
this guy.
how dare you? No, but then there's the core of like the defensive core, Dondozo and Amoonguss and Screamtail, that is like kind of really annoying to deal with, because they're able to ball pretty much most of the meta, I would say, combined with those three. And then, but the big thing I would say that kind of knocked it down was that like its removal options are going to really be reliant on Rotom Heat, because it's just Lando I and Rotom Heat, and Lando's not going to want to run Defog a lot of times, especially with it getting new like moves such as like Nasty Pot. So it's going to be a lot more setup and breaking potential instead of being like a utility mod. So Rotom's probably going to have to come to most games, especially when there's a Glamora running around in the league. So yeah.
Spoilers.
Spoilers! Wow.
Somebody want to fucking get drafted. Jeez.
No, I would agree with everything you just said. I think it's a pretty solid team, honestly, but it's just kind of held back a little bit by, like you said, the removal thing. I think is a little bit of an issue because you're not often going to want to run Defog on Landorus, which really leaves a lot to Rotom Heat to kind of carry that. I also feel like it's one of the slower teams. It feels like Dugtrio is kind of only there for like the speed. I mean, the trapping is nice too, but I just mean in the sense that like Landorus has already enough of a ground presence that I don't think Dugtrio was super crucial outside of it being a base 120 speed mon. And aside from that, it's like you got Screamtail at base 111, but like I don't actually know if people run Screamtail fast. It's not offensive though. Like if you're running it fast, it's just for like stally purposes.
Yeah.
Which just leaves like in terms of offensive presence, it's just Landorus and Dugtrio above base 100. And because of that, I feel like this team is gonna sort of be like on the back foot a lot. There's not really a lot of like volts, like full turn here. There's like U-turn Landorus and volt switch Rotom Heat, but like aside from that, I feel like it's just gonna be really easy to put a lot of pressure on this team. You're gonna be playing very like defensively, and in a meta where there's like so many like insane wall breakers now, I don't know if that's where I would personally want to be in this meta, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, and just to add everything you guys just said, which I agree with for sure. I also very reliant on Rotom, definitely. Just because, like you're saying, Sketch, the team kind of like doesn't have a whole lot of pivoting ability. So if you're on the field with that mon, it might be there a few turns. And I also see that kind of as a problem with some of his defensive mons, as in like Dondozo and Amoonguss, and even Rotom. I don't think their recovery options are the best necessarily. I know Amoonguss has Regenerator, but a lot of times it doesn't even want to run Synthesis, so it's kind of inconsistent. So I think that Screamtail is actually going to be a really big part of this team, just like Rotom, that he might have to bring it like every week just because how supportive it is going to be to the rest of his squad overall.
What I will say to that though is like Amoongus does have like the move called Ingrain that I know Crypto knows like pretty well. That he likes to run on Amoongus.
Hey, spoilers, spoilers. Don't expose me like that. I promise I'm decent, guys. Please. Jeez.
Yeah, extra credit if you run in green this season.
Yeah. If you, I had the right idea. Okay, shut up, Ash.
Anything else I guess to add? I think this is a pretty good team, honestly. I feel like on average the teams were better this season than in previous seasons, but I just think that there are like a couple things that maybe hold this one back a little bit.
I just want to point out I had this team ranked 8th, so there's a lot of people gonna be roasting, so get ready.
Yeah, I think that is something important to establish, that like it wasn't like a case where it's like, oh, unanimously this is the worst team. It just averaged out to be like a little bit lower. Like on average this team ranked like closer to like 12th, so
Yeah.
it's definitely not like
also-
atrocious, but yeah.
I also say that none of us ranked it last, so.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
Even though you're last on the board, you're not last on our heart, Seansters.
Yes, excellent. Okay, I guess we can move to number 15. Crypto, you wanna take this one?
As soon as I pull up the list.
Okay, I'll take this one. We got the Arkham City Delubers, coached by A12, with a team consisting of Mega Metacham, Chi-Yu, Slowbro, Zapdos, Wo-Chien, Dracovish, Crobat, Chansey, and Gothitelle, with the Terra users of Chi-Yu Fire and Wo-Chien with Free Terra.
Jesus, the breakers. The breakers. Go ahead.
The breakers are crazy. The bulk core is crazy. I don't want to face this team. Like, I think this is the weirdest looking draft this season. And I personally have it ranked last, like on my list, but at the same time, I think it's like one of the scariest, especially for like certain matchups. It's just like the one that I think is the most exploitable because of the weaknesses that it has. But like, I don't know. I guess we can get into what those weaknesses are, which is that it's missing a few really important types, I think. Like, notably, it doesn't have a ground type, so Volt Switch is like pretty free against a team like this. There's no fairy type, there's no steel type, and the dragon type is Dracovish, which is used more as like an aggressive water than really like doing dragon things, if that makes sense. So it's like almost like a non-existent fairy dragon steel core, which for me personally I think is really important to like a solid backbone for a team.
Awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Outside of Crobat, not a single mon is faster than base 100, which I think is also an issue.
Facts.
Yeah. But then at the same time, it's like the wall breaking potential of Mega Metacham and Chi-Yu is just like insane. And then like the defensive core of Slowbro and Chansey is like a lot to handle. And then on top of that, you gotta dodge like Shadow Tag from Gothitelle. So it's like, this is so weird because it's like such a terrifying team. It just has like the most glaring weaknesses, if that makes sense.
Yes. Everything you just spit was straight facts, no cap. And to add
thank
to
you.
straight facts, no cap. His hazards are ass. I don't know if you mentioned that. Chansey's his own stealth wrecker. But like, no offense, A12, you know I love you, buddy. Chansey's his only stealth wrecker, so obviously he's gonna be forced into that role quite a bit. I'm just off the hazard. I love hazards. Like, I probably overrate him, to be honest, but like, his team's really gonna be like, it's gonna be the difference between the KOs. I feel like Metacham, Chi-Yu, and freaking Dracovish are so close to OHKOing everything in the metagame already. If they have that little bit of extra chip, like that just sets up such a cleaner sweep, I feel like. So that's one thing that bothers me a little bit, where he could maybe add spikes to this team, which I think would kind of like shoot it up a little bit in the rankings. But other than that, like you said, other than Crobat, the speed drop's kind of big too. But I agree that this team is quite terrifying overall, and on paper it's not one that you want to face because it's just a headache for prep.
Yeah. Bash had this draft ranked pretty highly at 5th, so if you want to say something about it.
The thing is, what I really like about this team, I know like it's missing like a bunch of typings that are pretty like necessary for draft, specifically for a dragon resist or immunity, right? And like a ground type for electric immunity. But some things that I like really like about the team, right? So like say like Crobat, right? Most teams when they bring in when they switch into Crobat, they bring out a steel type, right, or like a rock type. If you bring out a steel type, you go straight on the U-turn, that's straight Mega Medi or to you, and you claim a life, right? Like it's all this momentum is really kind of like nice to pivot around to get the right Pokemon in to break, which is really scary. I think combining that with the ability to trap with Gothitelle to be able to take out those like mons that actually can take a hit. It's kind of, I think it's kind of scary that way, especially with like Sobro teleport and Chansey teleport. Those two alone, like, because they force switches all the time, right? And that's gonna allow A12 to bring in these huge breakers to just blow them away. I do agree that there is like weaknesses to the team, but I really like the momentum core to bring out these huge heavy breakers to just like annihilate teams. So, and the trap as well. So, yeah.
I was gonna say, if you get ranked high on Bash's list, just draft a bunch of momentum, and he'll rank you in like top 3.
Whoa!
That's his style, brother.
All facts, no cap.
Wait, what?
I said all facts, no cap. Yeah, you know, I'm not a huge like type redundancy kind of guy, but I was talking to Bash about this, I think, like after the draft. Even though it's triple psychic, it doesn't actually seem like it's going to be an issue for this team because it pressures like ghost types and dark types so ridiculously hard. One thing that we haven't mentioned too is I feel like Wo-Chien with free Terra might be like really obnoxious. And even though I mentioned like it is missing some types, like you could definitely do something like run like Wo-Chien ground 1 week if you're like facing like an electric type. That's kind of a problem for the team. So like there's definitely a lot of like really threatening things that this team can do, but yeah.
No, yeah. And like there's just so many good teams this season. We didn't want to, obviously some people are gonna be low and we're still gonna compliment your team a lot. Like they're all like strong for sure in their own right.
Yeah.
Except for Cryptos, but that's besides the point.
My team's kind of
ass. Speaking of ass, let's move to number 14. No, I'm playing. Oh wait, no, that's Yehoodles. I take it back.
Well, spoilers!
No, I'm introducing it. Welcome to Arceus, by the way. Oh, okay, go for it.
Wow, never mind. I'm gonna go pee. I'll see you guys in a few hours. All right. Coming in at number 14, the one and only, the Dot God, the freaking season 8, season 7, I think as well. Hold it together, Krash connoisseur, Yehoodles, and let me tell you something about Yehoodles. Other than him being like a cool guy, his team sucks. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just messing with you. Yehoodles have the freakiest of flames round 1 pick in Hisuian Arcanine. Then he has Zeraora, Rillaboom, Mega Charizard X, Quaquaval, Hisuian Gudra, Hoopa, Gardevoir, Skuntank, Golurk, and Cyclizar, with I think his Terras being Terra Flying Zeraora and Terra Free Hoopa, which, sheesh, that's pretty threatening. But anyways, I think, where did I have him ranked on my list? I had Yehoodles ranked 9, yeah, so I had him a little higher than this. I think I overall just appreciated the variety and the diversity this team brings with how many potential like win cons I see with this. Terra Flying Zeraora is definitely going to be a really good cleaner in my opinion. He's got the Rillaboom still there. Mega Charizard X, you know, that thing's always a threat in its own right. Quaquaval has the setup sets. So I mean, he's got different win cons every single week, and they're all so different. So I think it's going to be an annoying team to prep for. It's one of the like bigger teams as far as roster size. It's 11 mons, and a cool addition that I just want to point out is Skuntank at 4 points has Toxic Spikes now, and I think that is way too undervalued. So that was a steal and a half. And that was one thing I put on my notes, was that Yehoodles, in my opinion, had some of the best low tier steals out of the whole draft.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I did see that Skuntank got Toxic Spikes. I've never used that mon, so I thought maybe it just always did. I didn't realize that was new. But Yeah, I also had him at 9th, mainly because of like, you know, the K9 round 1 pick. Had to put him 9th for that. No, I'm playing. No, I like this team though. I was a little concerned about it with the Hisuian Arcanine pick because I feel like after he did that, like all of the 20-point mons and all the 19-point mons and most of the 18-point mons got scooped up by the time it got back to him, which kind of backed him into a corner. But that said, I feel like he was able to establish like a pretty formidable team despite the limited like broken mons by the time I got back to him. Like I do think a Vol is still available. Something like Terraflying Zero Aura is still really, really threatening. Something cool too, I think, is that he has grassy terrain with that, which means that he could like, not that he has like Unburden or anything on Zero Aura, but he could do something like a grassy seed to just like boost acrobatics or something. Like a stab acrobatics, and that becomes flying type. That could be like really scary, and it gets like the defense or maybe split F boost or something. Like there's some interesting synergy there, I think. I feel like this is like one of the more like just balanced drafts. So I like it. I think the only thing holding it back for me is like maybe it is still just missing like a little bit of like that ridiculously like broken power that we're seeing in this generation. But I don't know, I think it's pretty solid overall.
Would you like to add to that, Bashley?
Yeah, I would, I guess. So one of the things I saw that like kind of stood out to me, right, is like I know he has three removal options, right? Four,
He has
including
two defaults to rapid spinners, yeah.
Yeah. So one of those is Mega Charizard X, right?
Woo!
I don't think that's running defogs because that's defogs there for Mega Charizard X, right? The removal's there for that. The second one I saw was what Quackable, right? For Rapid Spin, right? Which is like a good mon, and it's cool with Rapid Spin, but I feel like I don't think Yuhul is gonna want to run it that way. I think he wants to be a lot more creative with it. I think Yuhul is a really creative battler, but like I also think that like Quackable being put into this scenario where he's gonna have to run Rapid Spin is kind of an issue for it. And then his last two removal options are Skuntank and Cyclizar, which I don't know how often they're coming. So my thing when I was looking at it, right, is that I think Mega Charizard X, Zero Flying, because it's going to take hazards now, Stealth Rocks, 25%, and Arcanine are going to struggle a little bit with the removal hazards because when you draft something like Mega Charizard X, I think you need like a Pokemon that really like it's like a really top tier like removal option to be able to help with the hazard control. And although these mons are good, they're not they're not top tier removal options, I would say. And that's where I kind of saw where like issues are gonna arise as well. I will say Hoopa is a steal for a Terra. I didn't even like that's a great pick right there for Terra free, and I believe it does get Terra Blast. So correct me if I'm wrong, but
Right.
yeah, so that's kind of terrifying. But I don't know. Those were like the main things I saw. It might be also because like he took the goat for round one, Arcanine, right? Hisuian Arcanine. That might have caused this situation where he wasn't able to get as good of a removal. But that's something I wanted to point out, though.
Yeah, I would say I mostly agree with what you're saying. I don't know if I fully agree with Quacklevolt being like. I think that thing actually does like to run Rapid Spin just because it can boost its speed and then like Moxie Sweep while resisting rocks. But I do generally get what you mean with like I think like things like Cyclizar and Skuntank might not always want to run it, and Charizard definitely doesn't.
I still think I want to point out. I know we have Cyclizar down at 6 points. Obviously, we banned Shed-Tail for it. That's why it's so low. But I think it's still a really good like low tier support mon with Rapid Spin and like knockoff and U-turn utility. So I can still see him bringing it a fair bit with Rapid Spin to help support the Charizard.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, pretty solid squad there, you Hoodles.
We're happy to see you up in Arceus this season, brother. We're excited to play you.
Yes, big welcome, big welcome.
This is.
Moving to 13th place, we have VM Nunes and the Alaskan Articunos. And they have a team consisting of Mega Gallade, Tornadus Therian, Weavile, Clefable, Ursaluna, Heatran, Delmise, Lantern, Spiritomb, Lapras, and Hisuian Zorua, with the Terra users of Heatran Fairy and then Delmise Free. Which, something that occurred to me while I was like preparing power rankings is that Delmise is now able to run a 4-attack moveset and have stab on all 4 of its moves, thanks to like Terra and then Steelworker.
Oh my god.
So that's pretty interesting. But no, I think that this is a pretty solid team. I feel like the lack of hazard control is a little bit of an issue for it because there are just only 2 stealth rockers. There's no like spikes, sea spikes, webs, or anything. And then there's like the 1 defogger with Torn, which is a pretty good one. And then 1 rapid spinner with Delmise, which again is a pretty solid one. But I feel like it's just like missing a little bit. Like I personally would like to see like at least 3 hazard setters and maybe like 3 hazard removers. But I think like the issue, I guess like the issue that I could see is like, let's say Clefable has to run rocks, which is going to have to a lot for this team if he wants rocks. Then that means that maybe it won't be able to run things like teleport. And this is a team that doesn't have a ton of like momentum outside of like Torn T at that point. So I don't know. I think it's a pretty good team. I think outside of the first 3 picks though, not a single mon breaks even base 80 speed, which is like a little concerning. And I'm also not too sure what Zorua is doing for the team, but admittedly, maybe it does something that I'm just not aware of because it isn't new mon, but I'm just not really sure what it brings to the table here.
Well, another thing I wanted to add to like Sketch's thing, right, is like we talked about the hazard control, right, like his being like Torn T, right, and Delmise, the 2 removers. He doesn't have a grounded poison, which is like a kind of an issue when you only have 2 removers. So I feel like a lot of games, especially with a lot of poison types gain T spikes now this generation, he's gonna have to be running removal on like one of those 2 mods like pretty much almost every game, which is gonna take away from their like ability to run like these more creative sets or more breaking or offensive sets or defense. Like it's gonna take away from like the versatility you can run with these Torn T and Delmise, which Torn T wants to be a lot more versatile and be able to do its own thing, right? So that's like a huge issue I could see coming around. I know that some things don't get affected by T spikes, like Clef, and then Ursaluna will maybe if it gets the flame orb first, whatever. But I see that as like a huge issue. Something I would recommend maybe is like I believe maybe Marini's at one point instead of Zora. Could literally like I see Marini a better brain than Zora, and be able to absorb T spikes and also provide T spikes could be a good addition, or Galarian not Pavilion Whooper or whatever. But yeah, I think this team's gonna struggle in the hazard situation. But I will say this is one of the only drafts that probably stands up to A12's team. So,
Sure.
so yeah.
Yeah, the counter teaming here is immaculate.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up. This is definitely one of our most top-heavy teams for sure. Like when the draft process was going on, when this man got all the way down to even just Ursaluna, I was like, holy shit, how many points this dude got? And then he takes Heatran after that, and like a Delmise, which is a respectable price after that. And then these last few picks coming in, I'm like, this is kind of a weird end of the draft. And I start looking at some of the rosters across the board, and I'm like, pretty smart man. With all these, yeah, not, we'll leave it at that. But I think that this team is going to be super reliant on Clefable a lot of games, being that he doesn't really have a, like, I guess you would say like a traditional psychic type. He just has Mega Glade, which is obviously an amazing offensive psychic type, but it's not really going to take on like the fighting types that you normally want to take on, which I suppose Tornadus can help with a bit, but I think that Clefable's going to have to fill that role quite a bit, and probably going to be forced to come every single game. And being that it's one of his only 2 stealth rockers, he may also have to force it into that role quite a bit as well. So the top heaviness is nice in some ways, but it could be limiting in another way.
Yeah, I get that.
Sure. Overall, though, scary squad.
Yeah, for sure. So moving to number 12, got the GOAT. You know what I'm saying? Just like, oh my god, he's so cool. He's so hot. It's Sketch AV, your boy. I'm here, coach of the Winston Weaviles, and I'll let you guys talk about my team first, I guess.
I'm just shocked this guy's at first like every other season. What is this?
Yeah, I agree. If I had my way,
Yeah.
Guys, he actually stopped paying us, so we can't rank him first every season anymore. It's unfortunate. We gotta go with the legit ranking this season, and this is where he's been hiding all this time.
this is what happens when I don't pay you guys, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to go first or me, Bash?
I can take this one.
Go ahead.
One thing I will say, like the one thing I
introduce the team, bro.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
So first off, he's got the cousin of Weavile, his like mascot Pokemon Sneasler, right?
Yes,
got
sir.
Mew, Excalibur, Scizor, Jolteon, his like his traditional electric, Mega Aerodactyl, Grimmsnarl, Arboliva, Wishy-Washy, Palossand, Vespiquen, and Typhlosion. With the Terra users being Sneasler, Ghost, and Jolteon Free, which Jolteon Free, oh boy, that is not going to be fun to play against. It gets Terra Blast, so now it gets the coverage right that it needs to hit all those ground types, and now Sketch is going to run mayhem with it. So I can already tell. But some of the things I would like to say is that I think why he's not as high, other than the fact that he didn't pay us, is the fact that his hazard removal is kind of sus. Like, I don't know. I feel like Mew and Scizor don't want to run Defog a lot of times. Scizor maybe does, but like I feel like it could be running these like SD sets or like Choice Band or like other sets, right? And then after that, it kind of falls to Mega Aerodactyl and Vespiquen, which Mega Aerodactyl probably doesn't want to run it. So I think like something like maybe a little bit better removal, but I understand what he's trying to do with the Vespiquen pick, which is goated, by the way, with the T spikes and everything, and but I think that like maybe like a better removal option could be really nice, especially with like the fact that Mega Aerodactyl and Excalibur are really gonna be taking those like rocks pretty hard throughout the games. Especially since like I feel like Excalibur might not want to run boots all the time. And also the fact that he's gonna be taking his only rock resist also is Palossand, I think, at the moment. So everything's gonna be chipped down pretty easily, pretty badly. Oh, Sneasler too, my bad. So those are like the
ground Jolteon.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. But then Sneasler doesn't become a resist once he tears too. So I don't know. I also think that this is going to be a lot more of a like offensive team, which is kind of like new to Sketch, but I think it's going to be
a staller.
That's right. Funny.
Well, because I was gonna say like his team's a lot more offensive, right? I would say like stuff like typically or more. I would say it's either more of like a bulky offense or like more of just a hyper offensive team. With the later picks kind of filling into more of like a small like defensive core roles like Arboliva, Wishy-Washy, Palossand, Vespiquen. I would say those are more taking in more of those defensive roles, while I think like the rest of the team is more offensive. Although Mew could go either way. I feel like that'll be interesting to see how Sketch plays with this in the season, but I kind of like it. I kind of like the team. I just think the removal could be a bit better in terms of that, but very threatening team.
Yeah, I think that's fair for sure.
Yeah, can't wait to see what Sketch pulls out of the hat this season. So
Facts. Well, I actually thought the team was perfect, so I don't have anything to say. I'm like bashing his hate comments, but
bro, what?
Moving on.
Bro, you put it lower than me, bro. Don't even
Don't tell the viewers. No, I really this is definitely odd because Sketch has had some very high teams in the past, and I'm not saying this team's bad by any means, but I think he went more for like a well, the Sneasler kind of says it. He went for more of a I want this one, I'm gonna take it kind of team, and I can respect that. And it looks like that all the way throughout the whole team. So I don't think he really changed his thought process throughout the whole time. He's kind of like, I want this, I'm taking it. He's got a lot of his like Jolteons in there. I've seen him use Scizor quite a bit. Sneasler's gonna be fun to watch, and then a bunch of new ones at the bottom here. But I am gonna have to roast you a little bit just because this is a PR video.
Of course, of course.
Yeah. I would say the team's a bit top heavy, and I know you might have your niche purposes for the lower tier mons, but I can't get past the Firewater Grass Core if I'm being honest. The wishy-washy, I want to see it succeed, but like once it hits that schooling mode, it's a little tragic. Our Balava, I do think that it can cause some problems with its high special attacking stat. But it's a new mon, so I don't know. I have a little bit of lack of judgment there. And then Typhlosion is kind of like, I guess it's a good mon, but it's just match dependent. Like it can be really strong, and there might be certain matchups where it has like a lot of resists, and it could be kind of trouble to bring. But that's the good thing about having a big team like this, is you can kind of pick when you want to bring some of your lower tier mons, and if your opponent doesn't prepare for it correctly, then they're going to get punished badly. And he does have some good low tier mons in that sense that they can take advantage of that. I do really like the speed on this team. It is one of the faster teams in the draft, with Mega Aerodactyl, Jolteon, and Sneasler, which all kind of hit different typings in general with some of the coverage moves they have, which is going to be really good for cleanup purposes on this team. And also just really good fast mons to get chip damage on things to help maybe a Baxcalibur sweep or some kind of offensive Mew, or even a late game Scizor with Bullet Punch. And on top of that, he's got a Grimmsnarl with Prankster Screens, which is, I always hate going against that thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so with all the win cons at the top of the screen, that's what is really threatening about this draft. And like if he decides to bring some kind of setup Vespiquen that I don't know about still behind screens, then I'm honestly just gonna eat my words on everything I just said. But yeah, I think it's a really cool looking team, and it's one of my teams I'm most excited to see like throughout the season, just used in general, because like I feel like every single game it's going to have either Wishy-Washy on there, or Vespiquen, or our Balava will be there, and it'll just be fun to see what like comes out of the hat, like Bash was saying. But yeah, no, I think it's a really cool looking team overall.
Yeah.
I also want to comment on one more thing. Sorry that I forgot to add. I think Grimmsnarl is actually one of the most important mons on this team. For the fact that it has a lot of setup on it, I think this fact that screens and parting shot, Grimmsnarl adds so much to the team. In the terms of giving the ability to set up with Baxcalibur, Sneasler, Mew, Mega Aerodactyl, right? Vespiquen, yo. I think like a lot of these mons are going to benefit a lot from Grimmsnarl and its utility it's going to bring to the game, to his team, to make it more of this like so he's able to play this more of like this maybe like hyper offensive team, right? So yeah.
Just in the notes that I had for my own team, I said that I think it's a fun, albeit slightly weird draft. Definitely outside of my usual style. I was kind of panicking through most of the draft because I usually try to establish like that strong Fairy Dragon Steel in like my first couple picks. And I was like, I got Sneasler and then Mew, and I started panicking because I was like, I don't know what's still available to get. But I think I like this team a lot. It's different for me, but I'm looking forward to using it. I feel like my Terra captains kind of both have the same theme of just not really having switch-ins, like from a typing perspective, because like Sneasler Ghost is like Marshadow typing, which is like notoriously hard to switch in on. And then Jolteon with Terra could go like Ice type and then be like a Bolt Beam kind of thing to switch in on. I feel like Jolteon is like one of the better low tier Terra threats right now, because it also got Calm Mind this generation, which is very threatening, I think, with the ability to terrestrialize, and then maybe do something like Quick Feet or something. Yeah, like Crypto said, I think it is one of the speedier teams. Just from like Mega Aerodactyl and all that is really fast, but then Jolteon being able to boost his speed with Quick Feet, and then Sneasler being able to boost his speed with Unburden. There's just a lot of like really speedy things to do, as well as like a few slow things. Like I think our Balava is really good anti-trick room. So it's like pretty solid range of like speed tiers there. As well as like some fun synergy things I'm looking forward to like getting to play around with, such as like, I know this one's kind of whack, but like it is just like a small thing to consider that like Scizor is paired with a Flash Fire Mon as well as a Thermal Exchange Mon in Baxcalibur. And then things like Arboliva potentially setting terrain for like Sneasler to activate Unburden. I feel like it's just like a lot of interesting and creative things I can do with this team. So I'm looking forward to using it, as well as like things like Mew and stuff, which can obviously do anything. I just feel like there's like a lot of options with this team, which will be pretty fun.
Behind screens especially, just
yeah, it's
Yeah,
weird, but
sticks,
I think I'll like it though. We can move on though. I'll stop gassing myself up. We can move to. You said what?
Save it for your wheelchairs this season whenever you start.
Yeah, exactly. I'll save it for my champion speech.
Okay.
Moving to number 11, we have Smat and the Modena Sceptiles, and I'll let one of you two introduce this.
I got it. I think it's my turn, isn't it?
I think so. I think it is. I just can't remember who.
All right. My boy Smat, he is now a moderator this season. He has grown up. He is big now, and I'm very proud of my boy. That is my French-Italian stallion, and I am very proud of my boy. So, anyways, coming in with the first pick overall draft. By the way, he was the champion from last season. Just figured I'd gas him up a little bit for that. He did hack sketch, but we won't just forget about that. He is the champion. He's got the team of Urshifu Single, Cinderace, Latios, Aegislash, Mega Venusaur, Primarina, Xurkitree, Gligar, Frostmoth, and the 1-point GOAT Porygon. This team is really cool. I've not seen Mega Venusaur drafted in quite a while, so I'm very excited to see him use that. And I think that he is the perfect player to pull it off. So I'll go ahead and pull up to my notes a little bit right here. I know on Smat I had him listed. I believe on my list I had Smat 12th. Yeah, it's Smat 12th. So I had him a little bit lower. One thing that really stood out to me, again, I'm a hazard bitch. I love my hazards, and he's only got the Gligar as his one stealth rocker with nothing else on the squad. And I believe, yeah, that is the one thing there. So I do think that he can bring Gligar to a lot of his matchups, just because ground is such a reliable typing, and Gligar is just a really like kind of do-it-all kind of mon that it can, defog, it can set up hazards, it can slow pivot. It's an Earthquake spammer, which, I mean, it's not a strong one, but Earthquake's just such a good move. He can, do that with it. So it's good in that sense. And I wish he just had a little bit more hazard support to really benefit his offensive threats, especially with those first 3 mons on the top there with Urshifu, Cinderace, and Latios. All just giving him tremendous cleaning and sweeping ability there. But I do have to say, again, like, I think that a lot of the people in Arceus were really smart about what their Terra All users. He picked up Terra All Frostmoth, which the ability to Quiver Dance, and I believe it gets Roost too, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so Quiver Dance, Roost, and any type he wants in any given matchup could just be annoying, and something, if you're not ready for it, like, that thing could definitely just sweep your team. With the appropriate coverage, of course. I don't know if it gets Terra Blast or not. It might, which would make it even would make it even scarier on top of that. But yeah, and then I really just wanted to gas the Porygon, the 1-point Porygon as well, because I had that on my one championship season team. Just throwing that out there, but it was the best 1-point mon I've ever drafted, I think, outside of maybe Marshtomp. And yeah, it's very good. I'm happy to see it drafted again. Yeah, solid squad.
I would like to formally apologize to the people. I lied. Frostmoth does not get Roost. I'm so sorry. We'll do our best to recover from this as a community. I'm just so sorry that I let the people down. Yeah, an apology video is on the way. I like this team a lot. I feel like it does have its issues, but I also think it's like so terrifying. Like, typically the Urshifu answer, which was already really difficult to keep in check, was like maybe just have like a really bulky fairy that could maybe run like a berry to resist the super effective hit it goes for, which was already pretty questionable. But now it's like, well, what if we just turned Urshifu into a poison type, and then also gave it Aegislash and Mega Venusaur to like really threaten out those. Like, there's actually just like no answer to that mon now, which is like so scary.
Yeah.
And then you just have like stacked threats like Latios and Cinderace, and even things like I think Primarina and Xurkitree can wall break really hard. Like, it's just a very threatening team with a Mega Venusaur there to sponge hits for it, which is really threatening. The main thing that holds it back, which Crypto sort of already mentioned, is the hazard presence, with Gligar being the only stealth rocker. I love Gligar. It's my boy Lando G right there. But I feel like it wants to do so much. Like, because it gets so many good moves that like you won't always want to carry rocks on it, because you might want like U-turn, Roost, Knockoff, Defog, Earthquake, of course. So there's like so many moves that it usually wants to run that you might not always be able to fit Stealth Rock onto your build, in which case you don't really have any hazards anymore. And then the hazard removal, again, is putting a lot of pressure on Gligar, because outside of that, it is now Latios and I believe Frostmoth, neither of which really want to be the defoggers. There is Court Change Cinderace too, but like, yeah, it's just not amazing in that department. I also don't like that there aren't any mons that reach base 120 speed. It does feel like a little bit slow on average, but that, as well as the complete lack of like clerical support, is like a little concerning. But I feel like this is still a really terrifying draft to have to prep for. Like, I feel like people going into this match are just gonna have to go into it knowing that there are certain mons that they're just not going to be able to switch in on, and they're just gonna have to like make a game plan that revolves around maybe sacking off a mon and just getting the switch momentum because of it, which is like never a good feeling going into a match.
I want to add on to Sketch's point about the no clerical support, right? Meaning he has no way to remove status. I think his team's not going to really appreciate Will-O-Wisp route. And like the one Pokemon that would be immune to it, right? Cinderace has Libero, which means there's likely a chance it won't even be a fire type. So I feel like Will-O-Wisp spam is going to be very big on this team, against this team. The fact that it could like wear things down, like things that don't get recovery, right? Like Frostmoth, Aegislash, Prima, like those kind of things, right? But then also nerf like Urshifu, Cinderace, like and a bunch of those other mons. I also want to add in though that he chose an amazing. We talked about this about Frostmoth, right? Having all Terra, right? The whole Terra. I don't think we mentioned like the fact that Frostmoth with its ability is going to be kind of busted, by the way, with the Terra. Ice Scales, I don't know if you remember that, but it receives half damage from special attacks on top of that.
Basically,
so yeah, just in general. So it's going to be really difficult to take it down. Especially so if you don't have like a way to check it physically, yeah, it's probably gonna be GG. So I think Smart might have one of the, probably in my opinion, some of the best Terra users picked out, but just because there's no really good way to deal with them. But yeah, and then the hazard control is just not great at all. So yeah.
So that we can move on to 10th place, which is the Arizona Dactyls, coached by Volume. He has a team consisting of Roaring Moon, Palafin, Iron Treads, Annihilate, Galarian Weezing, Galarian Moltres, Thunder's Therian, Quilladin, Mega Gardevoir, and Dunsparce. Let's go! I'm so excited to see Dunsparce getting drafted a lot now. Like, it's this mon's time to shine, for sure. But I feel like Volume went into this draft with like this is the new Toy Syndrome team, I think, because like his first like 5 or 6 picks were like Gen 9 mons before he made transactions, I'm pretty sure. But you can still see there's like a lot of like the Roaring Moon, Palafin, Iron Treads, and Annihilate, which there's no shame in that because those are all 4 really, really good mons. And I feel like that's just kind of like the theme of this team. There's just like a lot of big threats you have to worry about. I think his Terra users are really scary. I think Terra Water Palafin is just going to be really terrifying. And then I also think that Galarian Moltres is one of the more threatening low-tier Terramons that we allowed this season. So I'm really excited to see what that thing is able to do, because I feel like if used properly, that thing could really just be a monster. Roaring Moon is obviously a huge threat, and I think Annihilate, I haven't seen, well, you know, this is my first Gen 9 draft, but I feel like it's just so annoying to play against that mon, because it's gonna like impose a lot of restrictions on what you're able to actually go for. It's gonna make opponents have to think twice about clicking certain moves that were previously just moves that you could take for granted, like U-turn, because you don't want to like boost Rage Fist, of course. But yeah, I think that there's like solid momentum. I think that there's decent enough clerical support. I mean, it's not amazing. Like Mega Gardevoir is like the Wish Passer, which it can run Wish, but it doesn't always want to. But I do think like Misty Surge from Galarian Weezing can be nice as well. Again, this is another team that doesn't really have anything that hits base 120 speed, which is an issue. And I feel like it's missing out on like, I don't know, I wouldn't say it's missing out on any crucial types, but it's just missing out on a lot of them, which might mean that like in certain matchups, it might be kind of tough to handle certain mons. But I think overall, this is a pretty solid draft. I like it. I'm a fan.
Okay. Yeah. I want to comment also about the speed tiers. He actually has almost half his team within 6 speed points from each other. From base 100 to base 106, he has 4, 5-ish Pokemon, I think, which is like almost half, like pretty much almost half the team, which is might provide an issue for like in terms of like people prepping, right? Because everybody's just gonna try to hit like a little bit higher than that or whatever. I think it's gonna mess a lot with the speed tiers, because then it kind of then it goes to the base 90 and then it just drops off from there. Was one of the things. In addition, his like ice resists are kind of like questionable right now because it's just Palafin, I think, if I remember correctly, and a lot of ice types get freeze dry, so that's kind of an issue, especially when he has like Roaring Moon, Galarian Moltres, Thundee, Quoden. Like these mons don't want to be taking these ice moves, and I feel like the fact that your only resist to ice is Palafin, which is not going to appreciate freeze dry if they run it as a freeze dry. So I think that's something that you're going to have to probably worry about a lot, is ice spam. So
there's a Kyurem drafted, so so that'd be scary for him for sure. This has like nothing to do like analytically with the team, but like I just think it looks cool that like Quilladin and Dunsparce are kind of just on here, and then everything else kind of just looks like pretty badass. Like you got Roaring Moon, you got Hero Form Palafin, you got Iron Treads, Annihilate. Galarian Weezing's a little weird looking, but you got Galarian Moltres, Thunderous Fury, and Mega Gardevoir. All these things just look like freaking badass Pokemon, and then Quilladin and Dunsparce just holding it down, dude. I freaking love that. I don't know, like it just feels like if you're doing like a playthrough or something, those would be like the legendaries you get at the end of the game, and Quilladin and Dunsparce are like your starters.
Oh, I was saying Quilladin and Dunsparce are the legends of the game. I'm like, I would play that game for sure. Like, come on, let's go Quilladin and let's go Dunsparce.
Oh, I know, right? You thought you were getting analytical breakdown, you're getting a playthrough breakdown for
No.
Palafin can join that side if he wants to stay in his little zero mode, I guess. But other than that, I do want to say that I appreciate the setup galore on this team. He's got very good setup spam overall with Roaring Moon, Palafin, Annihilate, Moltres, Thunderous, and Gardevoir. Like they're all, all in their own right can.
And Quoden.
Present threats. That's fair. We're still not thinking that set, but it could be. And then even Dunsparce gets Coil. That's a good point. I didn't think about that. So sorry to ruin your plans here, Volley, but jeez.
You're leaking the sets.
Yeah.
Which is fair, because never mind. Never mind, we won't go there.
Whoa!
Oh shit!
Catch him, am I right?
Gotcha.
Drama. I told you to go see a therapist about that, guys.
I'm trying to process my grief.
Yeah, just trick man up volume in certain categories. We'll just say that. Overall solid squad. I don't really. They added like all the points I was pretty much going to bring up. I just want to bring like the visually appealing points up. So hopefully you'll appreciate that volume.
The playthrough review. Yeah, I really think Galarian Weezing's going to struggle with the first gym, but yeah, solid team. Moving to 9th place, we have the Carolina Roaring Moon, coached by Ochi Albina.
I'll take the team. Yeah, so you got leads off with Dragapult, Greninja, which is Protean by the way for the season. Victini, Sylveon, Slitherwing, Blastoise, Thundurus Incarnate, the Dunsparce, the father of Volume, Mega Steelix, and Tangela with his Terra Captain. Sorry, Victini, Fire, and the Dunsparce for the free. So one thing, like the thing I notice like right off the bat is that like his removal is Blastoise and Thundurus, I believe, and that means Blastoise is gonna have to come as removal probably for most games. Especially with the Glamora, as I said, running around, it's gonna suffer a lot from hazards. I think also Sylveon is going to be a very important mon to this team. I think it pulls like the team together a lot with the wish support to Mega Steelix, Blastoise. With also, I believe, isn't Mega Steelix one of his only rockers? Yeah, into Dunsparce. I feel like the Sylveon and Blastoise are going to probably come to almost every game because of the way the team is made. With Sylveon being like a really good wish support situation for his defensive core, and then Blastoise being his only way to remove hazards with, so as I said mentioned before, with so many T-Spike users now in the game, it's kind of an issue. Then on top of that, right, he doesn't have a grounded poison, so that's going to make it even worse with only having Blastoise and Thundurus as his removal. So, and with the fact that Victini also doesn't want to be worn down because you made that your Terra Captain, I think it's going to cause a lot of issues for you in terms of the hazard control game. I think offensively, your team breaks so well with some mods. Like Victini Terra Fire is absolutely crazy with like Choice Band, like V-Crate. It's going to blow through like bulky waters too with that. It's remarkable. But like, and then the combination of Slitherwing, Greninja and Dragapult is also going to be terrifying. That U-turn, and with Victini, of course, with the U-turn core right there, it's going to be very threatening to play against. So, I believe that's what I had for him, though. But yeah, have fun versus Glamora. I hope it goes well this season. So,
oh, you can go ahead.
So, yeah, I think
what happened? You good?
I think this team has some of the best synergy out of like, all the drafts outside of like Bash's point. Now, there's no grounded poison, which is kind of like it's kind of poopy to be honest. OG is kind of poopy. I would recommend getting one of those if you can afford one day. But anyways, freaking, I think it has good synergy. Like I said, the Fairy Dragon Steel Core is kind of clean. I appreciate the Wish Pass and support. Mega Steelix is an extremely good low value Mega. For all the things it can do for your team, you know, it's a really reliable stealth rocker. Some of the setup sets are definitely no joke, and then it honestly takes hits better than you would assume from the special side even, so it's good in that sense. And believe me, Terra Victini, like Bash was saying, is no joke to switch into. Yeah, you're gonna have a hard time finding something that can take 2 of those V creates. But other than that, I'm a big fan of just the overall momentum of the team and breaking abilities, and I think it supports Dragapult really well too as a in-game cleaner for him. And I wanted to point out that Prankster Thundurus is a lot better of a remover than Bash gave it credit for. Just to say.
Whoa.
You know, when Bash was talking, he said I think Mega Steelix is his only rock setter. And he said, oh wait, no, the Dunsparce. And I heard Mega Steelix is the only rock resist, which is true. And then he said, oh wait, no, to Dunsparce. And then Crypto agreed. And I sat here for like a minute. Like my brain was just doing backflips. I was like, do I have the wrong typing for this mon? Like how does the Dunsparce resist rock? And then I realized he said setter, and I was like, it all clicked. But anyway.
Well, it can be a resist. It's the Terra Captain.
That is true. That is true. Yeah, I think that this is a pretty cool looking squad. I think that it has really solid speed tiers outside of just like the pocket between like Thundurus and Slitherwing. There's like a 30-point gap, but like outside of that, I think that it scales down really evenly from Dragapult at base 142 all the way down to Mega Steelix at base 30. Which I think that's pretty important for a team that has like a lot of speedy threats like Dragapult and Greninja to have something like Steelix there just to be a trick room deterrent. I also think there's a lot of like Volt turn momentum here, which will be good for getting like the big threats like Victini onto the field just to nuke things. But I don't know. I think I have to side with Bash. Like Prankster, Thundurus, it is pretty solid, but it doesn't always want to do that. So I just feel like Blastoise is going to have to be working overtime, which is a little unfortunate because I know Shell Smash Blastoise is like a pretty big threat these days, you know. But it's going to be a little bit limited having to run removal like all the time. But yeah, I think Wish with Mega Steelix is going to be really, really nice. And just overall, I think this is a really solid, balanced looking team. So I like it.
Straight facts.
At number 8, we have the GOAT. We got the boy Jimmy.
Jimmy G.
Yeah, go for it.
Epic, yep. Yep, that's my boy Jimmy. Just want to give a shout out to Jimmy. He was one of my first ever Twitch viewers back in the day when I streamed. I don't stream anymore, so probably because Jimmy stopped watching me. Really ruined my confidence. But still out there, Jimmy. Just wanted to thank you for watching my streams those first few weeks and really giving me the knowledge I know today to battle. You're my biggest inspiration in Draft League, and yeah, your team sucks though. But here we go. Anyway, you have Zamazenta Crown. You have Zamazenta Crown. You have Landorus Therian. You got Necrozma, Rotom Wash, Zarude. I really hate you for picking Zarude, by the way. I wanted that. Mega Charizard Y, Dragalge, Donphan, Wigglytuff, Lilligant, the shitty version, Walrein, and Relican.
You really hurt over this Zarude thing.
Yeah, I don't like this guy. I'm telling you.
You had Jimmy at last, didn't you?
Yeah, I'll get there, but yeah.
Oh, wow.
I 100% think it's because he sniped you.
Maybe. Anyways, this Terra uses his Zamazenta fighting, which is pretty good, and then he's got Lilligant free, which is also pretty good. Yeah, and Jimmy, this is like the most Jimmy draft you'll ever see. Well, aside from Zamazenta, you don't really see that get drafted all the time. But Landorus all the way down to like Donphan are mons that Jimmy drafts all the time, even Wigglytuff quite a bit. And it is another top-heavy team for sure, I'll admit that. But his first, 7, 8 mons are all really, really solid, and I think it makes up for in that sense. And yes, I did have him ranked last, and that's only because I think that, unlike OG Albina, I give him credit for having a good synergetic team. I think this might be like on the lesser end of synergy when you look at teams. Yes, it does have Zarude, which can't get status under the sun, and I guess that's nice, and you can run like Morning Sun Necrozma in some cases. But he has a team of 3 water types under Sun, which I don't really understand. He does have a Lilligant, I guess, with Chlorophyll, which is pretty good. And his Fairy type's also Wigglytuff, which it's kind of bad. But there are some good things about the team.
Wow.
Like I said, guys, this is my inspiration. I'm allowed to roast him a little bit. Jimmy's he's got Landorus Therian, which is the #1 draft league mon. Don't at me. It's the best mon in the whole league. And then he's got.
Why did you take it, Crypto? That's a good question.
Because I was after Jimmy.
But that was a second round pick.
Shut up. Anyways, all right, passing the mic on to Bash.
One thing I want to note before we get like to discuss about Jimmy is that like Crypto claims that he's Jimmy's rival, but we all know that's not actually true. We all know who Crypto's real rival is, but we can discuss that at a future time. I also disagree about some of the waters. He drafted. I guarantee you, if you ask him, he drafted Walrein just to counter Iron Bundle. I promise you, like 100%, because that's the reason. Because he's got like thick. Well, it gets thick fat right too, so it's gonna be like one of the better checks to Iron Bundle when it comes to like any mons, right? And for such a low tier, it's a pretty good steal. I don't know about Relicanth. I can't speak to that, but I think his team is like kind of pretty interesting. Zamazenta fighting is actually kind of crazy if you think about it, because it actually doesn't. When it Terras, right, it doesn't have the same weaknesses as it did before the Terra, and it's still getting like boosted stab on top of that, which is kind of scary to think about. And also just like going off with that, he can run Iron Defense body press with Terra fighting, which is gonna be so annoying to deal with Zamazenta, which is like one of the new things they got, right? Pretty much this is very much a Jimmy draft, right? Like even this Groot, I know that Crypto was salty about it, but you should have known that Jimmy was gonna take it because this is a Jimmy draft. But
Almost like a Bisharp.
I believe though, like he has some pretty good removal. I would say Donphan is going to be very nice and Rotom Wash for the Charizard Y, and so it gives it a lot more ability to break for his team, which is probably going to be his main breaker for his team, Intric Out. So I'm really looking forward to the team. Yeah, and I think Lilligant as a Terra free is kind of a low key threat. I'm hoping to see something with it. Because it usually the problem with Lilligant, it usually lacks the coverage. And does it get Terra Blast? It should, right? I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Because usually the problem with Lilligant is it doesn't have the coverage to hit the certain mons, right? So giving it a Terra is going to be like very terrifying with Quiver Dance. So with like a Sleep Powder, Quiver Dance, like maybe even like an own tempo like Pedal Dance, Terra. I don't know, but I think it will be pretty good this season. So he's going to pull it out of the hat. He's probably going to 6-0 Crypto with it, just to show the fact that he's like Crypto's not actually his rival. But we'll go.
Get out of here.
It's probably going to 6-0 me with it. I feel like we just always body each other in our games. But yeah, I agree. I had this in my notes too. I was like, this is just a classic Jimmy team. I was saying, we always make the joke about like Jimmy Johns during the draft. And I was saying, like, the funniest thing about it is that, like, if he does John, it's like everybody knows what he's going to take next anyway. I was like, I bet you I could just, like, tell Crypto to go make a pick for him, and he'd pick exactly what Jimmy was going to get anyway. So, I think it's a pretty solid-looking team, though. I think it's pretty well balanced. I don't think I have too much new to add outside of what's already been said, but I'm interested to see Zamazenta Crown used because I've never seen it before. Like, I know that leagues are starting to allow it. I've just never played in a league that has allowed it yet. But I feel like it might sort of operate as like a second Mega Pokemon in a way, in the sense that it just has like really broken stats, with the trade-off being that it can't run items. But yeah, I'm curious to see how it's used. And like Bash said, I think Terra fighting on it's going to be really insane. I recognize that Donphan will be kind of important for like hazard control, but I almost wonder if there's like a better use for those points in a way, just because there's already like a bulky ground that can set and remove hazards on the team. And when you're like paying that much for a mon like Landorus, like I wonder if there's like something better that can be added there. But I don't know. I don't have any like specific suggestions for what to replace it with. If you should replace it, maybe you shouldn't. But that was just the only thing that stuck out to me. It's like maybe like a little bit questionable. But 5 Stealth Rock setters is really solid. I think they're all pretty reliable, aside from like maybe Relicanth. But yeah, I think that's like a pretty cool looking team. So looking forward to seeing how it's used.
Relicanth is the Terra Victini switch in. That's what he's
Oh, that's true.
Oh, it's almost like it doesn't get like any grass moves, like
Oh,
at
hey,
all.
I'll check the Bandit V Create calc, and I'll bring it up later in the video when we have a second.
Okay. Fair enough.
Moving into 7th place, we have the Super Bash Bros, coached by Fist to Your Doom. Bash, you wanna introduce this team?
Yeah, I feel like I should just take it. Yeah. You know, my name's in the team name, so I gotta hype up Fist. So, Fist has a team of Tapu Koko, Garchomp, Iron Moth, Melmetal, Deoxys Speed, Mega Heracross, Araquanid, Serena, and Moz. I don't even know how to pronounce it still.
Your balls what?
Oh, okay. Well, whatever that mon is, right? Because I'm gonna probably have to talk about it in a second too, because I have some thoughts on it. But that's besides the point. His Terra mons are Deoxys Speed Electric and then Araquanid Free. Getting over to that. That is his Mob Stiff, whatever. Is his only Ghost Resist on his team. Ghost switching, I guess, right? So Ghost and Meteor, which is kind of troubling. I feel like with this fact that Ghost is like such a spammable move right now, especially with like Deoxys Speed being with his mons, right? A lot of people are gonna want to kind of run like Scarf Ghost is a good thing. That's something to keep in mind. He also does not have any Heal Bell. And his hazard setting's pretty good though, but his removal with like Coco and Serena is not the greatest. To be honest, it could be. I mean, Serena's probably gonna have to run like removal most games in order to deal with a lot of the hazards that came to this generation. So that's gonna be kind of an issue. I'm kind of interested though to see how Deoxys Speed is gonna function with the electric. Because I was a little surprised when he chose that. I was expecting something like fighting or something like that, but he went electric, and I'm curious if it's related to the fact that he can run it with Coco. I don't believe it gets rising voltage, but I would love to see like what he can work with that, I guess. I do like a lot of his core, like Araquanid setting webs from Mega Heracross is terrifying, and on top of that, Mega Heracross now gets Trailblaze, so it can boost his speeds on top of that. And then Tapu Koko with Iron Moth, that's a really good pairing as well with Electric Terrain to get the Iron Moth the boost. So I'm very excited to see certain parts of his team, how they work. But the fact that Mob Stiff is his only Ghost switching is gonna probably bite him in the butt a lot later on. So yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. But I'm also really interested to see how he uses Mabostiff, that being a newer mon. I think he's a cool guy, so hopefully he can do cool things with it. I think Stakeout is a fun ability, but we've only really had it on was Gumshoes the only thing that had it before? I don't know if anything else got it, but
Hell yeah.
but I feel like it's a good ability that just hasn't been given to a mon that can take proper advantage of it yet. So I'm curious to see how he does with it.
Thievul got it.
What's that? Oh, Thievul?
Thievul
oh, yeah. So I'm glad that they gave it to something that can actually take advantage of it now. Yeah, I thought the choice to make Deoxys Speed Terra Electric is interesting. I get the idea behind it, and offensively it could be really cool with the terrain. I'm just like a little concerned because I feel like this team has a ground weakness to some extent, because there's no flying type, which means that ground spam is obviously pretty free against it. I'm concerned about things like, say, like Landorus coming in and like maybe like on a rock polish set, or I'm not actually sure off the top of my head if Scarf outspeeds Deoxys Speed or not, but like I don't know. I'm just concerned because there's like Tapu Koko, Electric Deoxys, Iron Moth, and Melmetal are all obviously threatened out. And then like he does add in a few resists, right? We have like the 2 bug types as well as Serena. But the lack of an immunity makes me like a little bit concerned about adding in an additional electric type there. But I will say I think terrain boosted Iron Moth with Sticky Web support just sounds like a nightmare, and Mega Heracross with Sticky Web support is also a nightmare. Not that it even needs it, because like Bash said, it gets Trailblazed now. So I mean, this is like really, really terrifying. Yeah, I'm not looking for it. Like Iron Moth has base 140 special attack, which is just insane, and then like base 110 speed. So like, yeah, I'm really concerned about what this team is able to do. But yeah, I think it's a pretty threatening team. Just has a couple weird issues with it, I think, but overall pretty good.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the coffin with the exact point I was going to bring up with no flying type. Both of you guys, honestly, get ghost spam and ground spam are two really strong offensive typings with like earthquake and shadow ball being like the two primary moves, I suppose. A few others, of course, but yeah, not having a flying type really struck me. And while he does have those three bug resist, and some of them, can pivot in the cumulative of hazards and them having to switch into those ground type attacks is going to add up over time. And I think Scarf Grounds, whether I'm like, calling out people's prep or whatever, Scarf Grounds are going to be pretty obvious to bring against this, or Scarf Ghost types, or set up Grounds or set up Ghosts. Like, that was the main point I was going to try to bring up with this team. But other than that, like, if you don't beat him with your offensive threats, he'll beat you with his offensive threats first, because his team's got plenty of them. And even I guess Melmetal's kind of funny because like while he doesn't have a great ground or ghost answer, he can probably take both of those anyways, just how fat it is, and probably body that Pokemon back unless you have enough damage on it already. But other than that, yeah, his webs were a good idea with this team for sure because he's gonna have to utilize his team offensively as best as he can, and I think he's got a solid squad for it. Yeah, that's it from me.
Yeah, cool. Well, moving to 6th place, we have the Leuven Larvatars, coached by Bloodcrawler. And Crypto, I know you just got done talking, but you want to take this one too?
Yeah, I'll take this one first. Before I get into it, I actually had Bloodcrawler on my #1 spot in the entire draft on PRs, but I'll go ahead and go over his team real quick. This man's got the Golden Go, Tinglu, Enamorate Incarnate, Glamora. There it is. We've been talking about it for a while, and there it is.
Here it is.
There's the Starmie, the Megalopony, Kilowattrel, Appleton, Arcanine, Revavroom, and Palpitoad. So immediately, if you guys can't get the gist from this kind of draft, it is a get up hazards and don't let you get rid of them type of team. Basically, Tinglu will set up spikes, stealth rocks, whatever it wants to do. Glamora will get up its T-spikes, any kind of stealth rocks, and he's got the Goldingo, which will prevent you from rapid spin or defogging. And now, obviously, that's not like it's not invincible or anything. You can get around that. You can kill Goldingo easier than you think with certain things. But if he plays it correctly in any given matchup, it is a pain to deal with, and some of the mons that he has to abuse this tactic, he's got Megalopony, one of the best cleaners, I would still say, even with its return and all that being cut, is still a very good, strong, fast Mega to take advantage of Hazard Stack. And Enamorous Incarnate, I would say, is a really good choice scarfer, on top of maybe even a fast Kilowattrel being a really good option for a kind of Hazard Stack team. And even the Revavroom at the bottom with shift gear. So he's got definitely things to take advantage of it. There's nothing really on this team that stood out to me that was like horrible. I mean, there's definitely weaknesses in it. He could have maybe a little bit stronger of a fire, water, grass in my opinion. It's decent. I mean, that's probably a reach, to be honest. Like, I don't really think it's that bad. I'm going back over my notes now. All in my notes I put cancer hazards, supports Mega really well, solid high speed tiers. So I didn't put anything else. So I guess maybe Palpitoad could have been a better 1-point mon. I don't know. I mean, it's a water resist at the end of the day, or water immunity, so that counts for something. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. I'll let you guys go ahead and pull it apart a little bit. I know you had it ranked a little bit lower than I did, so feel free to give your reasons.
Yeah, way back in, I want to say Crash Season 3, I was using Megalopony for the first time, and I remember Crypto told me that that thing is like really nasty with spike support. So back then I think I grabbed like Klefki just to make sure I had spikes for it. And I feel like this team is like that idea fully realized and just like taken to its absolute peak, because just like the hazard control here is ridiculous. Like easily, I think the best in the league when it comes to hazard control. But like, you got 3 stealth rocks, there's 2 spike users. Revavroom gets toxic spikes, and then there's toxic debris on Glamora. There's Rapid Spin on Starmie. There's Mortal Spin on Clamora. And then, of course, Golden Go's good as gold ability makes removal really, really difficult. Something weird is that despite there being 2 flying types on the team, neither of them get defog, which means that both of your removal options can actually just be canceled out by like type immunities, with like Mortal Spin being canceled by steel types, and then spin blockers from ghost types. But I don't feel like you're gonna want to click defog a lot anyway with your game plan, and if you really have to, I feel like in most games you can just let other teams do the defogging for you. That is if you choose to let them, since you have Golden Go. But this is like one of the few teams that I think can get away with just not having a defogger, and that's a really weird concept, but I think it's just something new that we're gonna have to get used to seeing in Gen 9. I think this team has some of the best B tiers, actually. I think Megalopony, Kilowattrel, and Starmie are all really speedy. And then Enamorus is like another one just to have like 4 over base 100. And then it scales down like pretty well from there all the way down to Appleton at base 30 speed. I think that there's a pretty good amount of momentum here. The issue that I have with the team, and this isn't really a big one because I think it comes down to gameplay and like just going in with like a certain plan, and it looks like your plan is more so based around breaking and cleaning, but there's not really like a setup sweeper on this team, aside from maybe like Calm Mind and Amorous, or like yeah, okay, that's true, there is Revervrim. Yeah, I guess I'm kind of sleeping on Revervrim. You'll have to, I guess, bear with me because it's newer and I kind of forget what some of the new ones do, but yeah, that definitely does get shift gear. But like, I don't know, I guess I'm just looking for like a big threat like Dragon Dance user or something. But I don't think that's like a huge issue that you don't have one. I think Revervrim is really cool though, especially since it is your Terra user. You can definitely get a lot of like mileage out of it, no pun intended. But yeah, I think it's a good team for sure. I think it's just the lack of setup, and then there's also not a ton of clerical support. Was the only thing that really held it back for me personally.
So I'm actually like playing this person this week when we're recording this, so I want to hold back a little bit of what I have to say, but I had it rated a lot lower than you guys did actually.
Toxic. Whoa.
One of the things I wanted to say is the reason I hate it, because I don't think, like, I know this is a really big hazard stack team, but there is a really simple way around it right now. And the fact that he has no knockoff users on his team or corrosive gas users, the only way he's able to remove heavy duty boots from a Pokemon is through Trick Godango or Trick Starmie right now. And that's a huge thing, I think. Literally, they're not. None of his opponent's Pokemon are going to get affected by hazard stack, which is the whole purpose of like a huge purpose and strategy of the team, which I think is going to be a huge issue going into the season when people start realizing that. Sorry about that, by the way, Blood. But you're going to see a lot of heavy duty boots against you unless you fix that. But
ruin your whole team, but
sorry for exposing you.
Reverroom is actually like actually I was just saying this, like Blood was asking me like about like what like possible Terra users to use, right? And he actually came up to me about like Reverroom was like a sick one, because I was gonna tell him like otherwise you might just have to go Kilowattrel. But Reverroom is like actually really sick, because the only thing Reverroom really struggles with steel types right now. Its only coverage is Bulldoze. Otherwise it's like that's the coverage that's gonna like not like it can't really hit. So giving it a Terra type to be able to hit those steel types makes it very terrifying to deal with, along with the fact that it's gonna have filter. So give it like electric, right? Or like I don't know, like anything, right? Fire, whatever, ground. You're gonna be able to take those hits still, because you're not gonna have that 4 times weakness too as well. And you're gonna have the Terra Blast to break through those. So that's I think it's a really low key good Terramon. But yeah, I recommend getting a knockoff user sooner rather than later, because otherwise the hazard stack might not be for much. And then on top of that, yeah, I know that you have like a team that like is good for hazard stacking, and like the fact that the other team's going to be like most likely clicking defog or whatever, but Glamora and Starmie are probably not going to be the best hazard removers for the fact that they can be blocked. Like literally, if you just pull out an Aegislash, he literally can't remove hazards. They're literally gonna do the same thing to him as he's trying to do to them with the Goldango. But yeah, so I think he needs to probably get like a defogger on the team. So defog and knockoff, and then I think it's a like insane team. But yeah, that was sort of my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think I completely overlooked the lack of knockoff, but you're right. I think that is a really big issue. I also think I kind of slept on Reverfrom though. I did not even realize that it gets filter, but I think it's gonna be really important for this team for sure.
So I know you probably thought you said something smart there whenever he doesn't have any knockoff users or corrosive gas users, but I think you completely overlooked the fact that Goldango and Starmie Bash both have Trick, and that can get rid of the
That's
heavy
what he
defense.
said. I said that. What the hell?
Oh, he said that? Shit, that's fine.
Oh my god.
Okay, moving on.
Wait. I think Crypto forgot one more. I think Crypto forgot about one more. Forgot about Megalopony with Switcheroo, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes. Excellent.
I just debunked you, Bash. How's that feel?
Okay, bro.
I'm surprised Reverfrom doesn't get corrosive gas, actually. But anyway, moving to, we're making it to the top 5. Kicking things off, we have the St. Louis Shroomish, love that team name, coached by the Helix Fossil, a newcomer to Krash. Welcome to the league. Got a team of Dragonite, Mega Diancie, Meowscarada, Corviknight, Skeledirge, Sandy Shocks, Uxie, Licky, Empoleon, and Toxicroak. Got a nice fire, water, grass with starters there. Could have got the Quaquaval if Hoodles didn't steal it, but that's beside the point. Speaking of steel, Dragonite is Terra Steel, and then Toxicroak is Terra Free. I think that this is one of the most like well-balanced teams of the season. It's got most of the types, but it's missing, Ice and Bug, which I don't think is super crucial. It's got 4 solid rockers, 3 spike setters. It's got toxic spikes, 3 defoggers, and magic bounce, which I think is going to be really nice for preserving Dragonite's multi-scale. I do think with all of those hazards, having a rapid spinner would be nice, so you're not like having to get rid of those during the battle, but I don't think that's like the biggest deal breaker or anything. I think the speed tiers are pretty solid. I think you got a nice cleric and Licky. I've seen that thing do some pretty crazy things, I've seen it toss Bash on his neck a couple times. But that's beside the point.
Whoa. Dude, no, it's just because Crypto likes the
He likes what?
What? Hey yo,
you got a few U-turners for solid momentum grabbing. I think Dragonite is a really terrifying Terra user, and I think it'll probably end up being your MVP because like multi-skill is just an insane ability, and that was really only balanced out by the fact that like it had that quad weakness, and it wasn't like the greatest defensive typing before. But Steel is just such a good defensive typing, obviously, and having that with like Roost just being able to get right back to full HP, but this time being Steel type, it's just like it's gonna be really scary. There's gonna be a lot of setup going on there. Obviously, Steel type will check its counters, checking Ice types, Rock types, Fairy types. It's not gonna be fun. Like, it's just really, really scary. I think that this is a really good team. I think like the only issue for this team is just that like I think it's pretty good in every category that I was considering, but it's not like the best in any of them. It's like it got a B plus A minus at everything kind of thing. Like just overall, probably the most well-rounded draft that we've had this season. But maybe just like not quite at the mark that it needs to be. But I think that this is a really, really good team. And I've never played Helix before, but assuming that he's a really solid coach, I think that he can do some pretty crazy things with his team for sure.
I wanted to point out, I think you mentioned it, like obviously a good balanced team. In my opinion, has like some of the best support mons in Yuxi plus Licky Licky, being that I think Licky Licky is one of the best like low tier wish passers you can have that can actually be like kind of offensive in a way too, just because a lot of those when you get kind of in that low category can be a bit passive in ways, whereas Licky Licky can be if you're not expecting it, it definitely can catch you off guard with certain sets. As well as I think Yuxi on top of that kind of adds to that a little bit, being that it may sound weird, but it kind of like takes on Licky Licky's fighting type, which is like doesn't really. I don't even know what I'm trying to say right now, to be honest.
No.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
Okay. You want me to save you?
Help me out, please.
Here, just Dragon Tail me out. Dragon Tail you out real quick. Looky.
Here, use forfeit.
It's okay. We're an hour and a half deep into this. There's no shame.
Honestly, first off, he has the best defogger in the game, right? You got Empoleon right there.
Yes,
best
sir.
Hazard setter, best hazard remover in the game, bro. It's over. But on top of that, right? What I think Crypto was trying to say is that Licky was passing into Uxie is kind of busted, and because they cover each other very well, except for the Dark type, which he has other ways to deal with it. I hope. With the toxic, no, I'm just kidding. He has really good ways to offensively pressure it. Now that I'm looking at it, though, he does not.
Kind of this dark switches, yeah, kind of.
He does not have dark switches. Medianti, Masquerara, and Toxic Ogres resist. Not the best. But at least pre-Mega Dante could take the dark hits really well. And
yeah, you don't have to Mega,
Yeah, exactly. One thing I was going to know, I don't think Sandy Shocks is that bulky of a Pokemon, right? And the reason I'm bringing this up is because his electric or resist immunities are Meowscarada and Sandy Shocks. So I feel like he might come into an issue with electric types. Maybe not, I don't know. I felt like Sandy Shocks isn't that bulky. I feel like it wants to be run a lot more offensive or like fast with like hazard setting right options, instead of being like a switch into these electric types, especially now that some of these electric types got these boosts or whatever. So I don't know. There's a little questionable on that, but I think his team is really good. Dragonite, I'm interested to see how it goes with Steel. I was expecting normal, because that's what a lot of people like to run. Because of the normal extreme speeds, but Steel sounds like it's going to work fantastic as well. It's going to be a pain to take down with the defensive typing. But it's kind of weird also that once he becomes the Steel Terror, right? He's going to have 3 Steels on his team with Corviknight and Empoleon. So I'm curious to see how it goes. But yeah, I really like this team. I put it pretty high. And also the fact that like Skeledirge, Corviknight, Uxie, and Licky Core is just like, I don't think there's anything breaking that like at all.
Dragonite into that core too, to be honest.
Yeah. Also, with it becoming Steel or like whatever with the Roost, bro, like it's over. I don't know, like, and I didn't even include like Empoleon, right? I didn't include Empoleon to that list, and that's great. Like it's going to be really difficult, I think, to break his defensive core. So we'll see how coaches decide to try to deal with this team. But I think if he preps right with it, I think he's going to have a really successful season. So
yeah, and something we didn't even mention is that since he has the 3 starters, he can run Blast Burn, Frenzy Plant, and Hydro Cannon. It's just, really terrifying,
Wait, can he? What is it? He can run Grass Pledge, right?
Yeah, he can run the Pledge moves. Yeah.
Challenge volume for top gameplay team.
Crypto, did you have anything else that you want to say? I know that you kind of shut down on the Licky Yuxie front, but if you're done, we can move on.
I think he had an orgasm over there when he saw that.
When he saw the Licky.
Alright, next.
Oh boy.
At 4th place, we have with the Swallow Darkrai, coached by Lamaza. Bash, you want to talk about this team?
Lamazza has a very good team, I would say. Starting off with Iron Valiant, Spectrier, Hydreigon, Excadrill, Slowking, Toxtricity, Gigalith, Moltres, Beartick, Farigiraf, right? Spidops, and Cordell.
They were say Farfetchon from Clover.
I definitely was. I was going to. I was definitely going to. I felt like it. This team is very good. I did feel like it kind of fell off a little bit at the end. Some of the picks, but I feel like some of the picks were just also the counter teams, right? Like specifically, Cradilly is literally there just for Dracovish. Let's be honest.
Why would we expose people? Jeez.
Well, it's a known fact, bro. I don't know. I think this team is really good, especially. Oh, I forgot to mention the Terra users: Hydreigon, Poison, and Farfetchon. Now for Farigiraf. So I think Hydreigon Poison for Terra is really good. It takes away pretty much, I would say, all of its weaknesses that it had before, right? And then on top of that, it's gonna have Levitate, so the only weakness it's gonna have is Psychic, right? And it already gets the Dark Pulse and whatever. It was already a Dark type ahead of time, so it's gonna just break through those. It's gonna be really scary to prep for. In fact, like I think a lot of his teams are. I think a lot of his teams are going to be really big breakers or setup. Spectrier with Draining Kiss now, crazy now, could actually touch Dark types. So it became even more of a threat. Thank God we banned Terra on it this season, because I don't know how we would be able to deal with that with Terra, especially in Lomazza's hand. But yeah, I had this team in first actually when I ranked it. I liked a lot of its cores it has, and a lot of the offensive threats. Its removal is pretty good. It has really good hazard setting. It is missing a cleric, but I think his team could work around it.
Farigiraf could swish.
It's missing a cleric, like heal.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. My bad. I should have clarified that. But yeah, very good. I also think it's kind of interesting. He took Beartick for the double weather with the chilly reception. Don't know how often he's going to bring it. Just an interesting case. I know that Beartick got some buffs now. I think he gets close combat, which is like, wow. It's going to hit a lot harder now. And I think with the boost as well to the defense could be really interesting sweeper for that fact. Especially since like Excadrill is going to take a lot of the attention away from Beartick, so when it's going to show up, it's going to like catch people off guard. Spidops alone is kind of like I feel like we should have moved it up from 1 point. It's kind of a really good 1 point because it gets all like pretty much almost all the hazards, pretty much, right? And it also gets a way to phase out Pokemon in Circle Throw, which is really interesting to note. So Pokemon can't really set up on it, and it gets Memento as well. So it's really good as a suicide lead. And if you don't know what a suicide lead is,
tell them.
That's where you lead with it, set up hazards and stuff, and then die.
Yes, sir.
Early reminder.
We have to reestablish this every power ranking.
Yes.
Oh my god.
But it's honestly like not even like his team's pretty good. He's got some good setup as well. And I think a lot of people are gonna like undervalue Farigiraf. And I know that Sketch and Crypto think that thing is busted, but I do think it will be busted. I think Lamasa is gonna pull off some crazy set with it, and he's gonna probably sweep somebody with it this season. Yeah, I believe, and especially with it being the Terra. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Crypto or Sketch, you want to take
I'll
that?
go quick.
Yeah.
I just want to point out that I don't think Bash mentioned it. This is the one team without a Mega, which you could look at as good or bad. I personally think it's a little bit of a downgrade, just because I think his team started off really strong. Like when he had his first 3 picks, I was like, oh god, classic Lamazza draft, just picking the most broken stuff. And I was like, this is gonna suck. And then it kind of went on, and like it's got some good cores and stuff, and I think there's a lot of good variety with it, but not having a Mega dropped it a little bit on my list overall, just because I think he could have made it a little bit more threatening all the way through, where it's kind of gimmicky at the bottom half, which can be good, and I think Lamazza's a really good battler, so it's going to be like, I think it will work in his hands, but That and the fact that I think the priority on this team is pretty lackluster too. But he does have good speed to kind of make up for it, and good weather control mons, being like Sand Slash, or not Sand Slash, but Excadrill and Bear Tick, which will be good for him for sure. So that was really all I wanted to point out. The non-mega thing was the only reason it dropped on my list a little bit. Other than that, it's like a top-heavy team, but in a good way because it has niche mons at the bottom.
Yeah, I think this is a really strong draft. It's one of only a few that managed to hit all 18 types, which is something I always like to shout out, because I just personally think that if you have all of them, then you are theoretically the most prepared for any situation. So I love to see when that happens. It has access to all forms of hazards, mainly thanks to Spidops providing webs at the end, as well as I think it's the only spike setter, but it is just nice to have it as an option. Like in certain matchups, if it's like, oh, I really need spikes in this matchup, you have it, or if I really need webs here, then, you know, I think Spidops does fill that role for you, which is really good. And I think that that's paired with one of the best rapid spinners in the game to support a hazard stacking approach. I feel like mons like Iron Valiant, Hydreigon, and Spectrier really appreciate the chip damage that hazard stacking can bring. And while Spectrier doesn't love switching in on attacks, it is a mon that will be brought pretty often, meaning that there will like almost always be a spin blocker present in your battles, which would be pretty useful if you do choose to go for like the hazard stacking approach. I think Slowking will be really good for getting some of these like bigger threats onto the field. And I was like a little confused by Beartic for a while, and then it clicked. I was like, oh, because chilly reception, that makes sense now. Because like originally I was expecting him to get like Mega Bomb Snow or something to give it snow, but now I realize he already has a snow setter. So that'll be pretty cool. Maybe in some matchups. I think, like Bash said, Beartic has like some pretty cool coverage, and it obviously hits really hard. And now it's going to be getting the defense boost, and I think that can be really, really clean. And then obviously Sand Drill is crazy. I personally, and this is going to be my hot take of the century, I personally think that Gigalith is like the best Sandstream setter. You know what I'm saying? Like who needs a Tyranitar anyway? It's a bad Pokemon. Anyway, one thing that I think is really cool, I don't know if we have already addressed it, but well, Hydreigon being a poison type means that it literally just has no switch-ins now. But also something that is nice to consider is that Farigiraf being the Terra user, it can run Terra Blast, and even if you choose not to Terrastalize it, you still get stab on it, which is pretty solid. I feel like a lot of teams are going to run into like a prep dilemma this season where you want to bring both of your like Terramons, but you're not really sure which one should Terra in the battle. And if you choose to Terra one but not the other, now you have like this kind of like useless like normal type move that isn't really serving any purpose on your set. But in the case of Farigiraf, it's actually still pretty solid, just for like general damage purposes. And I feel like there's a lot of cool stuff you can do. I think you can run Farigiraf kind of bulky, like a Wishmaster, or you can run like setup Farigiraf and just like switch its type around. I think there's a lot of interesting things that you can do with that set, and I'm sure that Lamatza's gonna think of all the fun things to do there. So I really like this team. I think it's a pretty good one.
You know what? I'm just gonna make sure we got this correctly. That Sketch just said Farigiraf is better than Hydreigon, just so for the context for later on. So. Yeah,
well, I didn't say that. What?
I think he slipped it in there, bro. What the hell?
What? Yo, Bash is framing me. I did not say that. You can literally go back and listen. This is a video. Like, good lord. Okay, you know, let's talk about Bash. Let's move to third place and talk about Bash for a second. Actually, I don't think I mentioned this. It's kind of late in the video to be bringing this up, but if you made this far, thanks for sticking around. There were a couple of ties in the rankings, and the way that we handled tiebreaker scenarios was whoever placed higher on an individual list would get the higher placement in the overall list. And I bring that up to say that there is a tie here for second, but we are covering Bash's team first. Suck it, Bash. Not playing. Yeah, it's a pretty cool team. We got Chen Pao, Galarian Slowking, Zygarde 50%, Togekiss, Vaporeon, Hisui and Typhlosion, which he sniped me on, but it's okay, I forgive you, Bash. Mega Aggron, Decidueye, Palmot? I want to say Palmot.
Iron Hands.
Barrel, Dottler, he got the boy Ned, and then Noctowl. It's a pretty shitty team, but it's got some good things going for it, I guess. No, I think it's a good team. I think that there are... I think that Bash's team is like the sleeper threat team, where like there's just like a lot of things that don't immediately stick out as like really, really terrifying, but then the more you think about it, you realize it's kind of hard to deal with. I think the Zygarde normal is one of those kind of things. I think that this is probably the biggest sleeper Terra Captain in the league, because like the more I think about it, the more I realize that like handling that is just going to be so difficult, because Zygarde is like really, really bulky, and like that's the whole idea behind like the camouflage and coil set that was running around like Gen 7, Gen 8. Except this time you don't actually have to like dedicate a turn to switching your type. You can just do it pretty instantaneously while still getting stab on like 1,000 arrows. It also gets scale shot as of Gen 8. So there's like a lot of really nice things that Zygarde can do now. Like this is probably the best that Zygarde has ever been, and it was already pretty good to begin with. Then you got like Mega Aggron, which I think is at its peak ever since it got body press. I think that thing's been like really, really slept on. And then he has Mega Aggron with not one, not two, but 3 Wish Passers, which is just really, really good. And for that matter, Wish Pass into a normal type Zygarde is also really terrifying. Qian Pao obviously is broken, but then you gotta consider that that's Qian Pao with Chilly Reception, which I messaged Bash the other day that under Chilly Reception, like you can run certain sets where you can have Qian Pao like outspeeding like base 110 mons like Latios and being more defensive than Slowbro while still having like a lot of attack investment. And to me, that's just like insane on a mon like Qian Pao. I don't think it has any business being that bulky, but on Bash's team, it just has the option to do that. I also think Hisui and Typhlosion under webs could be really, really threatening, especially with the ability to like change typing with a Terra user. Like Eruption sets, like Specs Eruption could be really scary. And yeah, just overall, I think there's just like a lot of like sleeper threats on this team. I think that it's kind of a slow team outside of Qian Pao. The only other mon above base 100 speed is Palmot, but it seems like this is the kind of team where you go into each match with like a very specific game plan, and that game plan doesn't necessarily have to rely on being like fast and aggressive. Like I think that this team allows for more patient play, and I think that it's going to be a really solid one.
Thank you.
All solid points. Well, you better be accepting those thank yous because it's only going downhill from here.
Oh, Jesus.
So, Bloodcrawler, we thought you were the only one getting exposed this video. It turns out I know a few things with Bash's sleeve. Not only Sucker Punch, it gets Ice Shard. Not only does Dottler get Sticky Whips, it gets Bug Buzz. Actually, I don't know.
It does. Don't worry.
Oh shit.
Alright, you may be thinking, whoa, that's pretty insane. What else could he have? He's got Extreme Speed Zygarde. Not only is that paired with Terra Normal, he's got Wish Vaporeon. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, this guy thinks he can hide this stuff and get away with it. But anyways, moving on. I do want to say Bash does have a really solid team, and I think he's not giving himself enough credit for it. From all the reasons Sketch just labeled, I think he did a really good job supporting Qian Pao with this draft, just because the Chilly Reception in general, the really good slow momentum on this team. Wish passing even into Qian Pao is, I'm sure, is a possibility. so it centralizes well around that, and he did pick up the sticky webs there at the end, which I think is going to be really helpful for certain maybe like Coil Zygarde sets and like Specs Typhlosion or Hisuian Typhlosion. One thing I'm not a huge fan of on this team is his Ghost Resists. He does have 3 of them, or 2 immunities and 1 Ghost Resist, but I don't think you're ever really switching Chien-Pao into Ghost types. And I'm be honest, I don't really know how much of a Barrow and Noctowl are coming. Hopefully you have some tricks up your sleeve with those guys.
I promise you, B-Bear will come this season.
I
promise you.
He's
hope
counter picking somebody out there. I don't know who it is, but it's somebody. And yeah, so a solid squad overall. Let me look at my notes. I haven't said anything from my notes yet, so I'm sure I have a little bit there. Let's see. Yeah, I overall I just said I wasn't a huge fan of your low tier picks, and I guess it was just the bottom 3, just because I didn't really know what you had planned. And I said sorry, Ned, in the notes.
You weren't a fan of Ned? How dare you?
I'm sorry, but if you have specific reasonings for Barrel walling whatever it's gonna wall, and Dottler doing what it needs to do, and Noctowl doing what it needs to do, then I will not doubt it for a second, because you are in the Octillery division, and I would never ever.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's why we got Bashley here at tied for second or third, right? Is that what it is?
Yeah. Technically
like that.
third.
Yeah, no, but overall, very solid squad.
Yeah. I'm gonna give a little thoughts, I guess, on it. I'm not gonna say too much to reveal too much. So, but B-Barrow is gonna B-Barrow. I actually messaged somebody from a different league because he was upset that I dropped B-Barrow in the other league, and I told him I had him in this league and why I have it in this league, and he wants me to drop the replay when we get to that match. But there is a counter team, but. I also think B-Barrel is also like a crazy underrated threat. Swords Dance, simple. Come on, like, are you serious? Like, but I think it could do a lot of things. I think one thing I don't know if you guys mentioned, but I have a lot of priority. Like a lot. I think I have every form of priority other than Excel Rock, probably actually. Which is something to know.
Does Palmot get Bullet Punch?
I don't have Bullet Punch, do I? Damn. Okay. Well, we can fix that in transactions real quick.
You can borrow my scissor on weekends. Don't worry, I got you.
Oh, thank you.
On the weekends. Only on the weekends.
I don't know. I feel like there's some really good cores. Vaporeon, I think, is going to be a really big, important part of the team, putting like a lot of glue together. I also think that it's interesting that I have 2. Okay, bud. Interesting that I have 2 spin blockers. I don't know if you guys mentioned that.
No, we didn't care.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Oh man.
Figured you wouldn't have enough momentum to get the rapid spin off.
Jesus. Okay. Well, you know what? Let's move on to the next coach now.
No, I'm good. Let's stay here. I like this.
No, we're going to the next coach. I have quite a lot to say about this next coach too. If you're okay with me taking the lead on this sketch.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Next we have the furry lover with an interesting team. I am pretty sure Crypto went out his way to try to counter team Sketch and I, but that's beside the point.
Yeah, I agree. You know what? Yeah, I can get on board.
So Crypto started off with Regieleki, right? Then he's got Mega Scizor, Tapu Fi, right? Tapu Fi. Of course. Latios, Incineroar, Clodsire, Mienshao, Aerodactyl, Exploud, Mr. Rhyme, and Grotto, with the Terra users being Regieleki Ice and Exploud Free. Let me pull up the notes of how. Yep, that's the first thing I wrote. Wow, I swear you counter Team Sketch and I every season. That's the first note I wrote. So toxic. But yeah, Regieleki is a really broken Terra user with the fact that now I can run Terra Ice, right? It's gonna break through pretty much all ground types. Like I even saw like this replay of how like Terra Ice Regieleki beat a Gastrodon, which is supposed to be one of the best techs to terrorize Regieleki, and it still just broke right through it. So I don't know what to say. Like that thing is like broken. No wonder why Crypto took it that first round. But then on top of that, he's got a really good defensive core. Mega Scizor, Latias, right, Incineroar, Tapu Fini, Clodsire. Which, by the way, he picked Clodsire to counter team the people that are going to counter team the Regieleki. So he's like playing the counter team like mind games right now, by the way. So just want to point that out there as well. One thing I wanted to know also is that he has no heal bell. So once that Tapu 5-5 loses its terrain or through from Ice Spinner or just running out or defog, whatever, it is going to be we're gonna have a lot of issues with status. So but basically I'm pretty sure like some of his Pokemon on the team, right? He picked Incineroar because of his like love for it. And wink wink. He picked X-Cloud because of his he picked X-Cloud because he wants that sloppy toppy.
So confused.
And he picked that Mega Scizor for the Scizor, so yeah. Moving on. Sketch, you want to take the team?
Yeah, I don't know how I'm supposed to follow that up, but yeah, I had this as my number one team. To be honest, I'm just a big Crypto fan. This guy could have drafted 12 Magikarps and I would have given him number one. Just big fan from day one. But no, I actually do think this is like a really, really good team. Regieleki is obviously broken now. I think it's just one of those mons that is going to be a problem for most teams in the league, like if not all teams to some capacity. And it's the kind of thing that can just be splashed onto like your team literally every single week, unless there's like a really, really compelling need for like Terra X-Cloud, which I mean, I guess Regieleki doesn't have to run Terra every week, but it's just like because it's priced so high, you're probably going to. Like, I feel bad because I feel like X-Cloud is going to get overshadowed as a result of that. But I mean, if you do choose to run it like Terra normal X-Cloud, it's not really fun to switch into either. Yeah, I made jokes about this because you kind of copied my Fairy Dragon Steel Core for my championship team, but I don't blame you because it's a really broken core. You swapped out the Latios for a Latias, and I think that that's actually even better for like, I think the approach that you're going for here, because it's just a bulk core that you have now that's like going to be really brutal to break through. Because you have Wish on Latias to heal up Scizor, and then it's also like especially nice for healing up Tapu Fini. That's just so difficult to get through, I feel like. And then all three of those mons, like the Mega Scizor, Tapu Fini, and Latias, it's just like this nasty bulk core that all have setup options that you got to be careful like playing around, because like Tapu Fini, once he gets like a comment or two up, is like surprisingly threatening. The same is true, of course, for Latias, and then it only really takes like one Swords Dance in the late game for Mega Scizor to win straight up. So really scary. The team also has like pretty solid hazard control, I think, with 3 pretty good stealth rockers. I think Grottle is one of those mons that you look at, it's like, oh, that thing's not showing up, but you'd be surprised. I've used it, and it has those matchups where it's just like really good for checking specific mons. And then while it's there, it's like, hey, while it's here, I might as well get like a free stealth rocker out of it, because it can always afford to run it, I feel like, due to a kind of limited move pool. But Aerodactyl's pretty good sitting rocks too, and of course Clodsire is. And then Clodsire gives you spikes and T-spikes, and then you have 4 defoggers, which is like a really healthy amount, on top of 2 rapid spinners, one of which is Mr. Rhyme. And dude, I really want you to do well with Mr. Rhyme, because like when Gen 8 started, I was like, I feel like Mr. Rhyme could be really good in draft, but I never see that thing get picked up, and I want you to sell me on Mr. Rhyme. So that's your mission for this season. I don't care how you actually do, as long as Mr. Rhyme is doing good, But yeah, I like this team a lot. I think the Misty Terrain on top of that crazy Bull Core is going to be really nice too. There's things like, obviously you can't Toxic Feeny easily. Can't Toxic. Actually, you can Toxic Latias. Never mind. But you can't Will-O-Wisp like Scizor or like Scald Burn it or stuff like that. So overall, I think it's just like a really, really solid team.
Yeah, I'm excited for Mr. Rhyme too. Like, I hope it gets a chance to shine at some point throughout the season. I feel like it fills a lot of the same roles as Latias in a way, but obviously it has the added typing with Ice. But there's a few ideas I have for that guy, and overall, I don't know. I went with Regieleki and Mega Scizor so early on, and then I honestly didn't mean to, but once I copied your Fairy Dragon Steel Core, I was like, oh yeah, Sketch had that like season ago, and I was like, it worked out pretty good. So maybe we'll see what happens there. And like Bass said, my Incineroar is my baby, not for the reasons he said it, but for the reason I like it. And the team was
That's what they all say.
that's what they all say. Who else is in this category?
I would not like to say the name.
Oh, okay. Anyways, weirdo. Freaking! I just want to point out I had a Hisuian Lilligant, which I ended up dropping for me and Sean Grotto at first. I don't know what your guys' opinions on that was, but I figured it was maybe a little bit better overall for me just to get myself a third Stealth Rocker is my main reason on that. But yeah, I don't want to talk too much about the team overall. I'm just excited to use mainly Regieleki and Mr. Rhyme are the two I'm really excited to use, to be honest with you.
Mr. Rhyme. Yeah, one thing I forgot to mention is that you are missing a ghost type, but I feel like your team doesn't really struggle with like normal or fighting spam anyway, because like your Fairy Dragon Steel Core kind of just shuts that down. Like fighting types will have to go through Tapu Fini and Latias, and then normal types will have to break through Mega Scizor, which just does not happen easily. So it's like, even though you are missing that type, it's like I don't really think that you needed it too much. And then also I just want to give a shout out to myself and Crypto, because he's got the Mega Scizor, I got the regular Scizor, and then he's got regular Aerodactyl, I got Mega Aerodactyl. So we're kind of like blood brothers at this point,
Oh,
That's how I feel.
and Bash over there just with his weird little Chan Pal, little furry fella. But anyways,
like Sketch and I don't have both Typhlosions, but okay.
It's true. That's true.
you did kind of ruin that when you sniped his. I don't know.
When you counter Team Sketch, but okay, that's what
Hey,
that's.
don't talk about that. We'll hold off on that topic for another day.
But yeah, are we good to move on?
Yep.
All right, well, here we are, about 2 hours into this recording session. We have reached number 1, and that is Ilkid and the Mizu Raikou. You've come a long way from having people pee during your section of power rankings, Ilkid, all the way up to first place. It's just, well, what a journey we've been on together with you in these power rankings over the last couple of years, huh?
Stopping Crypto though, no.
Yeah. Yeah, really good team, consisting of Iron Bundle, Great Tusk, Jirachi, Mandibuzz, Raikou, the mascot pick, nice. Diancie, Saraledge, Venomoth, Mega Sceptile, Audino, and Galarian Corsola. And Ash, you want to talk about this one first?
Yeah, sure. I actually really like the end of his picks. Actually, Dino and Galarian Corsola actually provide, I think, a lot for his team. First off, like, to be honest, his fighting switch-ins weren't that great beforehand. Like his two ways to his resistant immunity before the Galarian Corsola were Surge and Venomoth, which are both pretty frail. So I think that's a pretty good fit, and Audino to be able to pass wishes to Galarian Corsola, along with Diancie, and the fact that also Jirachi gets wish, so now he's double wish support. Gotta love the wish. I think it's also really interesting that he has really good removal for Iron Bundle, because Iron Bundle hates rocks, right? He has Great Tusk and Mandibuzz that are gonna pretty much almost every game probably be running removal, to be honest. But they're really good with removal. They are probably the top tier removal options, right, in the draft. community, right? Draft league. He also gets a lot of hazard setting, and but they're really good. He has 2 heal bellers. I believe one of the things also I want to know is that Venomoth is like such a really good Terra captain with tinted lens. It's actually going to be really scary with like a sleep powder Terra. I don't even know, like he could choose any Terra right now with it. He could be like, I don't even know, like what is a Spamborn, like fire, right? Terra fire. That's really it's gonna really just break through teams. But yeah, I think he has a really good job. He did a really good job of supporting Iron Bundle. I'm really excited to see how he does this season. Especially since he went all this way from Crypto peeing his videos to, first in the power rankings.
You've done well. You've done well.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, everything Bash just said was right. Just the way he interpreted it wasn't really the best. So I'll go ahead and reiterate.
Whoa!
Anyways, Great Tusk is a really good rapid spinner. I don't know if you guys heard that correctly, but I figured I'd throw that out there.
It's profound, Crypto. That's so profound.
No, but yeah, really solid removal options like Bash was displaying there, and overall has a very good, very fast top end mons with Iron Bundle and Mega Sceptile, which are both big threats in their own right. I'm excited to see Mega Sceptile because I feel like you don't always see it drafted, but when you do, I feel like it's like that underrated sleeper, like low tier mega threat, which is always fun. And I don't know what the obsession with Audino is. Like I understand it's good and stuff, but I feel like people, like maybe Ilka doesn't have an obsession with it, but I feel like people love that mon. Maybe just regen wish pass is just nice in general, I guess, but I think it functions really well on this team in general. And this team has just good momentum in general to kind of set up those in-game win cons. Like a specs bundle set could be really good. Maybe even like a double dance Diancie or not double dance Diancie, but rock polish Diancie with weakness policy, and then Surledge in the in-game is also really scary. And like Bash was saying, the Venomoth with Terra is no joke whatsoever. And did you mention if that gets Terra Blast? I don't even remember.
Oh, it does.
It does. Oh, great, fun. Well, that does get Terra Blast in, and then yeah. So overall, scary team. I think I had this one ranked 3, but I can definitely justify it being 1 as well. I think that's fair, for sure. And just throwing it out there, very big Mandibuzz fan. I think it's probably like a top 3 to top 5 defogger in the game, just because it's very good at it. So yeah, that's my thoughts on this squad.
Yeah, really solid squad. I had it ranked 3. Crypto, I think you had it at 2nd.
Yeah, second, my bad.
Yeah, I actually faced this team week 1, and I discovered very quickly that Terra Water Iron Bundle just does not have a lot of switch-ins. That thing is like so terrifying. I've been trying to prep for this team, and it's not fun, I can tell you that. Like you guys said, Terra Venomoth with tinted lens. I really feel like you could just like pick a type every week and be like, okay, I'll just give it that type, and now there's no switch into this because of tinted lens. And that's a really good ability to have, I guess, on a Terra user. I think Venomoth is a really good one that we keep at like below the 9 point, so I'd say below 8 points, but below that 9 point threshold to take advantage of free type Terra. So I think that's really well done on the Terra users here. We said before, the hazard control game is just like really threatening. This is also the 3rd of 3 teams that covers all 18 types. It has really solid speed tiers ranging from like base 145 with Mega Sceptile all the way down to base 30 at Galarian Corsola. I think Galarian Corsola is a really cool mon that doesn't really get drafted super often, but I think that it's actually like pretty good for what it brings to the table, compared to where you usually see it tiered. And I also feel the same about Mega Sceptile. Like Crypto said, you don't really see that thing get drafted very often, but I've been a Mega Sceptile fan from the beginning. Not in the sense that I've drafted it and thought it was super amazing, but in the sense that I've just been rooting for it from the sidelines for so long and been wanting to draft it. But yeah, I'm hoping that, we see good things from that mon this season, because we gotta prove that Mega Sceptile is a top tier Mega. I think it has the potential to be, but that could just be my hot take. But I think that this is a really strong draft for sure. I think it landing at number 1 makes a lot of sense, and I'm excited to see what you do with the team.
Awesome stuff. Yeah, no. What was there any other specific notes you guys wanted to hit? I mean, that was our number 1 squad. Like guys was saying earlier, I hope everybody's still here enjoying the video. 2 hours some in. I know that we're tired. You're probably tired of hearing us talk, but we love doing this every single season, and we're happy to do it for sure.
Yeah, and if I do my job properly in editing, you should see the full list here with all of our rankings listed from left to right. It will be mine, then Crypto's, and then Bash's, I believe, unless I change that. But yeah.
Also wanted to add in that like I think this season probably was the hardest in terms of like ranking them, just because of how good I think I think all of us could agree that like all the teams are very good this season, no matter where she ended up placed. And if you disagree with the rankings, also prove us wrong during the season. Yeah.
Yeah, I would reiterate what Bash just said. This was very difficult to rank because I felt like even the teams that like ended up falling lower on the list were like really strong drafts, and like I said, this is based on like average scores, and even the 16th place team had an average score of like, it landed at like 11.67. So even like averaging our scores, it wasn't even like, oh, this is clearly 16th place. It was more like, yeah, I guess this one is like 11th or 12th. So it was just really hard to decide, and you'll see with like the different lists that our opinions kind of vary pretty wildly on some people. So yeah, it's kind of all over the place.
Yes. I just want to say one more thing before I let our sketch probably close out the video, but wanted to just give my hot take on the kill leader, my prediction for this season. I don't know if you guys want to do that, but I had a really random kill leader prediction, and Volume will appreciate this, but I'm gonna go ahead and say Palafin will be the kill leader this season. Hot take. Write it down. Palafin water. But yeah.
You know, I'm gonna throw out Zamazenta Crowned. I want to see it from Jimmy.
I believe it will be Crypto. Just in general. No.
He will be the kill leader.
Yeah. And all you guys.
Yes. But honestly, I think that I'm gonna take a wild pick. I'm gonna say Lamata with Hydreigon.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Well, all right. It's been over 2 hours, so get out of here. What are you still doing here? Why are you still watching? No, thanks for tuning in, and be sure to check out the Giratina power rankings that will be going up as well. Much love. Has been me, Sketch AV. Gonna get about. Peace.